The Diddy trial is in full effect. I wanted to do a video breaking down the charges, but also spotlighting JLO. Could she actually be pulled in this? The answer might surprise you. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We got an amazing panel here. So happy to have John Witherspoon, Esquire, here, and Natanya, who, yes, was shot by Diddy. I hate to always have to introduce you that way, but I want people to give you the respect you deserve because you really went through it. So honored to have you both here. Natanya, you've been on the replays. We've been here. So have you, John. We've been recapping every day's Diddy case, trial day. I hope you'll join us each evening as we go through it. But a couple days ago, we talked about this, and I wanted to do a standalone with you because I think it's important. There's two topics I want to discuss. Sure. The JLO of it all, because it is relevant. Cassie even mentioned bringing, holding an arm for him to go into a club, which is the same thing everyone suspected JLO had to do. But beyond that, Natanya, you said some amazing things. I think not enough people really understand these charges Diddy's facing. They're all trying to say, well, he's just a bad guy and a boyfriend. And, you know, just because he was an abusive boyfriend doesn't mean that's what that matters. It's not illegal in this case. That's not what he's being charged with. But the truth is that's not the case. I wanted to bring John and Natanya to sort of explain this further. Before we get into the JLO of it all, because I want to go there, let's talk about racketeering, because it's a term that even I was ignorant to. Natanya, before we go to the legal answer, can you sort of quickly again sort of explain why the relationship to Cassie and then the music relationship, all of those connections, is connected to these crimes that he's facing?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, Andy, it's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And the reason that those facets and those details are important is because their initial contact was in regards to a employee-employer relationship. He put her under contract for a 10-album deal, which anyone in the music industry knows is equivalent to kidnapping and servitude. 10 albums, it would take you a lifetime to complete that. You have people whose body of work right now is 30 years and they have 10 albums. 10 albums means he owned her. And it is not hard for her to dispute that fact because look where she is. She got a record deal in 2006. She put out one album. This man was on top of the world at that time. Where are the other 9 albums? It was never his intent to put those albums out. So this is where the racketeering falls into place. You converted this professional contract into servitude and used this woman for your pleasure at your will, and then abused her on top of it. You cannot bridge the lines between professionalism and dealing with someone who's your subordinate. It creates a quid pro quo kind of situation. And he had the power dynamic. Not only was he 17 years older, but he called the shots. She couldn't do anything without his approval. He had her entire career in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, there's also all these arguments that, well, why didn't she leave? She did. We have evidence of her attempting to leave on multiple occasions, right?
And people have to factor in there's something called Stockholm Syndrome. If life was so simple, it would be black and white. It is not. Life exists primarily in those gray areas. She was afraid. This man pulled guns on her, which she admitted today, and threatened her mom, her family. What would you do if you were the person that stood between you, your family getting hurt, or you enduring another day of this? How many of us would not sacrifice ourselves for the betterment of our family? People do it every day. But in this situation, because he was wealthy and they saw her living what appeared to be a glamorous life, people are judging her improperly.
Well said. John, I want to bring you in because even I'm just, I guess, was ignorant to sort of the RICO racketeering charges. Is Natanya onto something? Do you agree that this type of relationship can affect, I mean, as a set of legal activities aimed at commercial profit that may be disguised as legitimate business, coordinated effort to repeatedly earn a profit, fraud, extortion, bribery, threats, violence, etc.? How does this affect things, John?
Well, I think Natanya makes a great point, and then there's also the other angle of it, which we've talked about in the past, which is that it's not like a group of kids in a neighborhood all conspired to start, moving some illicit material, some illicit white stuff in and out of the neighborhood to make a few bucks on the side. And then, the prosecutor has to prove that there's somehow an organization here that's engaged in some sort of illegal activity. What the feds have said in this case is that Diddy had this business empire already up and running and selling alcohol and clothing and making records and doing all this stuff that he's known to have been doing and making millions and millions of dollars in the process. And, oh, by the way, all of a sudden there was this offshoot of the organization that turned to stuff that is illegal. And that makes it a very, very difficult case to defend because everybody knows that the enterprise existed. All you have to prove then is that there was something nefarious and illegal taking place under the umbrella of Sean Combs Enterprises or any of, Star Island, whatever he has different sub businesses and everything. So that's where he's really hamstrung himself. He's his own worst enemy. He's a victim of his own success in a lot of ways. If only they had kept their fingers, or he had kept his fingers out of the bad stuff, none of this would really have any significance or relevance. But because there's this giant organization out there and humming along, and now there's an illegal aspect of it. Oh, guess what? All of a sudden, you've got a really nice, fat, juicy racketeering and conspiracy case.
But his relationship to Cassie, does that change it legally, or does that not matter? Is Netanya right in that the threats of here's all your albums, oh, you can't release them unless you freak off with me, and oh, you got to do this now, you got to do that, and got to that? Will that come into play, and can that fall under racketeering?
Well, it can, and it's, the coercive aspect of it as well. And that's really what I think Netanya was getting at, is that you're trapped. You're not able to do what you would ultimately like to do. You're not able to enjoy the freedom that you would otherwise be able to enjoy, except for the fact that there's this giant 800-pound gorilla in the form of Diddy and his business enterprise kind of suffocating you and holding you to the ground. That's what Netanya's getting at. And yes, that could be problematic.
And here's the deal. Not only was he her boss, not only did he use her for his own deviant desires, but then he housed her separately. So how is she your girlfriend when you make her? I mean, on one occasion, she admitted that he had beat her up. His security Roger Bonds dragged
Careful of the
back.
terms. Yeah,
Oh,
careful.
my apologies.
Because I want to make sure this gets widely shared. Yeah.
Assaulted, and the security guard dragged her back. And then you made her stay at a hotel because you didn't want to look at what you had done.
Yeah.
And he knew that he was doing wrong from the get-go, because from the very first interaction with the worker, he described him being in a bandana with his face obscured by a bandana with a New York Yankee fitted on, and only his eyes were visible. This man didn't know who the man was he was coming, whose wife he was entertaining. He said it wasn't until they were interacting, and he then started to, once he saw them involved, he started to give directives, and the guy recognized his voice. Here's why that's important. You obscured your identity because you told her, make sure this guy's not a cop. Why are you worrying about whether or not he's a cop? Could it be because you knew you were performing illegal activity? I mean, come on.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's exactly what a prosecutor would ask.
Yeah. People keep getting stuck on this. Oh, well, having kinks are not necessarily illegal. Okay, they're not. But when you then mix it with an illegal activity, that is illegal. People keep saying, oh, well, it's a DV case. Domestic violence is against the law. Like, what is this hill people are trying to, pass out on? Like, what is this? And it just is an indictment on the moral foundation of our society that people are defending him. Sick.
Yeah. And I'll just add one thing to that, Andy, too. And earlier in the discussions, people were pointing out, well, Cassie admitted that she did whatever to him, and Cassie's not on trial.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie's not on trial. If she did something so awful, then she ought to be prosecuted too. Not going to happen, I can tell you that. But did she, go after him a little bit? Sure, but she's not the one who's in jail right now facing these charges.
Well said. And I want to bring it back to this before we wrap, because as promised, I want to get to the JLO of it all as well, because Man, her silence is deafening, Natanya.
Mhm.
Like, if she was this victim of Diddy, which I'm not saying she was, clearly she might be less of a victim than she keeps claiming to be, because if she really experienced similar things as Cassie, even remotely, which she's implied she has with the infidelity and so on, holding the firearm, etc., her silence is crazy. Why isn't she getting grilled in court? Why isn't she part of this? In fact, why aren't you, Natanya? That whole case feels incredibly relevant. Don't you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly. And Andy, she's no victim. Listen, far be it from me to ever take away someone's victimization, but she is no victim. She is a co-conspirator. There's a difference. She's a co-conspirator. And here's why. She took the arms into the nightclub by the admission of the two police detectives that investigated the case, Artie Cadigan and Joe Sweeney. They said on another podcast, The Proffer, that she took it in. They reviewed the entire surveillance. The only people that were not searched were JLO and Puffy. So not only did she take them in, and we have Cassie verifying that this is in fact a practice that he did. Hey,
She
woman,
just, not to interrupt, yes, she said it 2 days ago on the stand that she had to do it for him.
And then here's the thing, which is why, like I said the other day, why you have to have someone from the culture, because this is something that is indicative of hood conduct and behavior. Guys give a woman, their girlfriend, the chick that's with the crew, the arms to take into the establishment, because the likelihood is that the men will be searched, but the women won't be so drastically searched. And that is something that is conditional of the hood. It's known, but you have to be of the culture to know the relevance of these things. I mean, if you do a cursory search of hip hop songs where some guy says, "I give my arms to the girl to take in," you will be shocked how many songs come up, because it's standard practice. JLo is not a victim. She's a co-conspirator, and she needs to be brought in, because not only did she bring it in, but then she threw it out the window when they were evading the police. New York is full. The jails in New York and all over the country are full of people who have done the exact same thing as she. And yet she was allowed to escape. Not anymore.
And to be clear, for those who were saying, "Oh no, but Shine took the heat," and that Shine didn't, you are going to say it again. Shine isn't the one who hit you.
Shine is no victim. Shine pew-pewed Julius Jones in the shoulder. I was pew-pewed in the face by Puffy. I've said that for 25 years straight. People have selective hearing. People hear what they want to hear. The same way
there was corruption too, no?
Absolutely. And the same way in this case, the U.S. attorneys would not produce the witness list until April 18th. Ask yourself why. Because they cited in their documents when in 1999, when the witness list was produced to Puffy's attorneys early on, they picked off all the witnesses, paid everybody. They paid so many people. People got amnesia. I didn't see. I was tying my lace, all kinds of foolishness. And they learned from 24 years ago, don't make the same mistake. Do not provide that witness list. Because if you give it too early, you won't have, listen, I'm astounded that you haven't had jurors start coming down with bad coals and foolishness. I guarantee you they're trying to see who they can. If you see anybody smiling too hard or looking too positive, that juror is going to be a problem. I'm telling you.
I mean, this all does sound like a organized enterprise, John, is what I'm getting at, right? To connect it all through. John, what do you think? Why shouldn't they bring in JLo, all of this to show the history, the amount of times this has happened, how he's gotten away with it? What are your thoughts legally?
Yeah, I mean, you can. It's not a guarantee that it's going to work, because in a lot of cases you don't have an opportunity to have discovery and depositions and everything else, but you can conceivably bring in people at the very last minute. We saw that in the Depp trial on several occasions when Kate Moss was brought in within 24 hours of her name being dropped, for better or worse. And several other people came in, I believe, just sort of spontaneously. The guy from TMZ, hey, he made a phone call.
Right, but JLo could come in, but would she? Clearly, Natanya's right. Why would she want to make herself complicit as a lawyer? Is that too risky to bring her in? Or do you think, you know what, let's see her sweat it up on the stand?
Well, certainly it's a lot easier if you know you have a sympathetic witness, again, like the Kate Mosses and the TMZ guy in the Depp case. But it's not unheard of to get somebody else in there, even if they're a hostile witness, just to get some information out of them, or to even put them on the stand and see what they say. If JLo would come in and she'd be very sympathetic to Diddy, and in doing so looked like a very non-believable person, that also could accrue to the benefit of the prosecution, where they would say, you know what, clearly she's trying to hide something here. And that just sort of it doesn't provide us with direct evidence that we can point our finger at, but they can still say, look, you know, she came in here, she's in cahoots with him one way or another, and she's been supportive of him, and therefore that doesn't make Diddy look very good. It's kind of a roundabout, sort of a consolation prize way of getting a witness in, but it could happen. I
want to give you the final word, Natanya. What is this a risk? You've sold this to me before.
I don't think it's a risk.
Why should you be involved? Why should they try your case in this case?
Because I am the first, outside of the 9 deceased victims from City College, which happened 8 years prior to me, a day and 8 years prior to me. I am the only surviving witness from back then of his first set of victims. It's not lost on me also that there is video footage out there. If I'm not mistaken, she was interviewed by Entertainment Tonight years ago, and they asked her, why did she and Puffy break up? And she said, let's just say, she looked around with a pregnant pause and said, our relationship ended with a bang. The video's out there. All they got to do is get her in there and ask her, what did you mean by this? Ended with a bang. Did your relationship end after the nightclub incident? What does bang mean? Have her answer that. It's also not lost on me that he has a string of children's mother in that courtroom, all of which there's a history of him treating foul. And they're all sitting there like, it's bizarre. It's like they're all under his spell, and it is just disheartening.
Well, and he's their gravy train too.
Yeah.
But one of them, Misa, she was homeless not that long ago. Justin's mother was homeless. There's a documentary out there. She was a stylist in the fashion industry, doing high society clients and living in a car. And I think the car got repoed or stolen, and she was on the train. There's a documentary out there. Go look it up. The beauty of the internet. This stuff lives in perpetuity.
Well, and you're an encyclopedia because you've lived it. You lived it. You got wronged by it. You know, you got some compensation and stuff, but that still never got the proper justice that's served and deserve more, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I think you'd be an amazing witness up there if anybody's listening. I wanted to make this to sort of spotlight that. So it sounds like you would. If they called, you would do it.
With bells on. There is an old, the color purple quote that people see and use all the time, Miss Seeley. After Harper was beating her up and she put her hand out and she said, ain't nothing good gonna come to you till you do right by me. That's what I say. Nothing good will come of him until he does right by me. God,
I love it. I love your strength, your confidence, your lack of fear. It is so inspiring. Please stay safe as you continually put yourself out there without fear. It's inspiring, but please be careful. Please be safe. And man, I would love to see that. I hope we can. What do you guys think of all this connection? Should JLo be grilled in court? Should she at least say something? I mean, clearly she's not gonna right now because she's trying to avoid all this. But JLo, your silence is deafening. Support him or don't support him. Tell us the story. There's way too much connections here. You can't keep telling us nothing all this time being. It's looking weird. What do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for all alerts. Smash that thumbs up as well. Leave your comments down below. And make sure you go support Natanya over at The Dopest Nerd here on YouTube. THA, Dopest Nerd. Look it up. John Witherspoon's over on Instagram. You guys are amazing. Please come back. We'll see you guys in the recaps. There's so much more to talk about. Stay tuned here on Popcorn Planet.